By now, I'm sure you've heard stories or seen videos about one of the farmers we work with, Mr. Sakamoto. We wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about who Mr. Sakamoto is, how he got into tea farming, and what makes Sakamoto green tea so special. Before we get started, it would really mean a lot to us if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned for future tea videos. We have hundreds of tea videos on all sorts of different topics, but for this episode, we're going to be focusing on Sakamoto green tea specifically. Without further ado, let's get started. Before we talk about Sakamoto green tea, we first have to talk about Mr. Sakamoto himself. When we met with Mr. Sakamoto, we got a chance to sit down with him and hear his story. He grew up here on this tea field with his brother, and the two of them helped the family grow and produce green tea. It was here that he first began to hone his skills as a tea farmer, but he noticed something happening on the field. Mr. Sakamoto explained that members of his family were struck with certain illness, and in some cases, cancer. He believed that the chemicals they used on the tea field were partly to blame. He created this painting as a tribute to his niece, who lost her battle with cancer. The painting depicts her as a strong warrior, ready to do battle. Sakamoto was determined to make sure her fight was not in vain, and when it was his turn to take over the family business, he decided to go completely organic. This presented a series of challenges for Mr. Sakamoto to overcome. Sakamoto green tea mostly focuses on the production of gyokuro, which has become famous for its strong, sweet, and savory flavor. This flavor is developed during the long shading process, which takes place 3 weeks before the harvest. When the tea plant is exposed to sunlight, it begins to convert theanine into catechins. Catechins are the bitter components within the tea leaf, so if a farmer needs to produce a smoother and sweeter tea, he will cover the tea plants in shade, protecting them from the sun. This minimizes the production of catechins and maximizes the sweet and savory theanine. With gyokuro, it's incredibly difficult to keep the tea plant alive and healthy without sunlight. A lot of farmers solve this problem by applying chemical fertilizers to the plants, but because Sakamoto tea is completely organic, he has to use other methods. The Sakamoto Tea Fertilizer is a genius solution to the problem of keeping the tea plants alive. There is an abundance of sedimentary rock in Mr. Sakamoto's region, and one day he came up with an idea. Because sedimentary rock is a buildup of nutrients over millions of years, in theory it could be used to provide nutrients back to the soil. The mulch sediments needed another ingredient to activate it, and for this Mr. Sakamoto leaned on the traditional Japanese method of bokashi fertilization. This uses leftover organic waste such as rice husks. After trying a few different methods, Mr. Sakamoto finally found a tea fertilizer that worked. He noticed that the fertilizer not only made the tea plant stronger and healthier, but it caused the tea itself to take on an extremely rich flavor. In order to test the tea plants, he will take a clipping from his field and compare it with a clipping from a non-organic tea field. After spending just a few weeks out of the soil, the non-organic tea plant will begin to wilt and die, and the organic tea plant will still retain its leaves and color. The Sakamoto tea fertilizer has become so successful that other farmers will purchase it for use in their own fields. Mr. Sakamoto not only notices a difference in the health of the tea plants, but the entire tea field as well. He demonstrates this by sticking a bamboo pole 5 feet into the ground without meeting much resistance at all. When he stopped applying chemicals to the tea field, the earthworms and small insects were able to thrive and move around in the soil, which loosened it up. This creates a healthier, more diverse ecosystem, but it also allows the roots of the tea plant to penetrate deeper into the soil and absorb more nutrients. When you compare this to tea fields that use pesticides and chemicals, you will notice hard black earth with nothing grown other than tea. We believe that a tea field should not only support great tea, but also a diverse array of local flora and fauna. As we mentioned before, the specialty of Sakamoto green tea is gyokuro. After the 3-week shading process, the work has only just begun. The top 3 leaves of the tea plant are now selected, as these are the highest in nutrients and the sweetest in flavor. These leaves are then gathered and taken through a cleaning and steaming process. As soon as the tea leaves are harvested, they will begin to oxidize and eventually turn into a black tea. When heat is applied, the enzymes that cause oxidation are deactivated and the oxidation process is stopped, allowing the leaves to retain their green color and these fresh vegetable taste characteristics. With Chinese green teas, it's common to heat the leaves in a large pan, whereas with Japanese green teas, the steaming method is more common. Once the leaves are steamed, they are taken through a controlled drying process at a low heat. If the heat is too hot, the leaves will bake and the flavor will change. The humidity within the leaves needs to be taken down from 70% to about 4 to 7%. These dry leaves store much better and soak up more water, allowing them to infuse properly. Right before the leaves are finished drying, while they are still pliable, they are rolled to produce their final shape. Most Japanese green teas have a needle shape to them, but this shape is especially apparent with gyokuro. This is because gyokuro goes through an additional rolling process with a machine specifically designed to give it these tight needle-shaped leaves. These leaves need a full 2 minutes to expand and fully release their flavor into the water. They release a strong, strong, dense infusion that is unique to Gyokuro. The flavor is described as being savory with hints of seaweed, almost like a hearty miso soup. This flavor is unique in the world of tea, and it comes from the high concentration of amino acids in the leaves. Now that we have discussed how Sakamoto green tea is grown, let's talk a little bit about the different types. We're going to start by covering the classic Sakamoto tea, and then we'll venture into some newer ones. First, we have the Gyokuro Cha Musume. The Gyokuro Cha Musume is the most popular Gyokuro from Mr. Sakamoto. This tea is made from the common Yabukita cultivar, which produces a strong umami flavor and a little bit of this vegetable flavor as well. This tea takes on a straight-to-the-point umami flavor, so if you're looking for a tea that has some strength to it, this is the one for you. The second most popular Sakamoto tea is the Gyokuro Sasahime. By now, you might be familiar with the different tea cultivars and how they contribute different flavors to the tea. The Sasahime is made by blending 3 different tea cultivars together to take the best aspects of each. As a result, this tea becomes more complex, with a strong umami from the Yabukita, a delicate sweetness from the Saimidori, and a round fruitiness from the Okumidori. Gyokuro Cha Meijin. The Gyokuro Cha Meijin is the third most popular Sakamoto green tea. This is known as the Master's Tea, and it's made entirely from the Saimidori cultivar. The Saimidori has the reputation of being one of the sweetest and most delicate flavors, and it's typically reserved for premium Gyokuro and Matcha tea. The Saimidori has a warm sweetness to it, with notes of caramel and brown sugar. Gyokuro Karigane. The Gyokuro Karigane is a great Sakamoto green tea if you're looking to try something a little bit different. This tea is made from a combination of the leaves and stems of the tea plant. While a normal Gyokuro will have a strong, savory flavor and high caffeine content, the addition of the stems reduces the caffeine content in the tea and makes the flavor milder. This tea also works great as a cold brew in the summertime. The Gyokuro Kukicha is another stem tea from Mr. Sakamoto. This tea is made with more stems than the Karigane, which gives it a milder and drier flavor. Although it doesn't have as much sweetness as the Gyokuro or Karigane, the Kukicha makes up for it with its strong minerality and floral tasting note. This is a great low caffeine tea to enjoy, particularly in the afternoon. Let's talk about some new teas from Mr. Sakamoto. Although Mr. Sakamoto has some great classic teas, one of the reasons we like working with him is because he's never afraid to try new things. During our last visit, he had recently installed 3 new matcha mills. Because matcha and Gyokuro both have a similar production process, he began experimenting with his own blend of matcha. After sampling the teas over the past few years, we are excited to announce that he has cracked the code, and the matcha from Mr. Sakamoto is now among some of the best tea we have had around Japan. He has 2 different types, the Sakamoto Matcha Sai and the Sakamoto Matcha Hime. The Sai is made entirely from the Saimidori matcha cultivar, and because of this it has a vibrant green color and a light and sweet flavor. The Sakamoto Hime matcha is made from a blend of different tea cultivars, just like the Gyokuro Sasahime. While not as sweet as the Sai, this tea is more nuanced, with a smooth milky finish and a nice vibrant green color. Finally, we have the Gyokuro Wakamusha. This is a relatively new Sakamoto tea that is becoming quite popular. While the Saimidori has more of this warm sweetness, the Wakamusha has more of a cooling sweetness to it, with notes of cantaloupe and honeydew. This tea is made entirely from the Okumidori cultivar, which is known for producing a smooth and well-balanced tea with a nice fruitiness. In addition to producing teas, Mr. Sakamoto has another role to fill as well. He is currently the president of the Kagoshima Organic Tea Growers Association. With this role, Mr. Sakamoto not only helps to supervise other organic tea growers around Kagoshima, but he also helps the government with tea research. During our last visit, Mr. Sakamoto had a field of small tea plants he was taking care of. This is a brand new cultivar he is experimenting with, and once the tea plant reaches maturity, he will turn it into a brand new type of tea and report his findings to the government of Kagoshima. Hopefully one day he will be credited with the creation of an entirely new variety of green tea. I hope you have all enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, we would really appreciate it if you could try some Sakamoto green tea for yourself and let us know what you think. When you order tea from Neo Teas, you are not only helping to support us and this channel, but you're also helping to support the dozens of talented farmers we work with like Mr. Sakamoto. We hope that by spreading his message and sharing his tea, we can allow him to continue all his hard work, while also sharing delicious green tea with people all around the world. If you have any questions about green tea, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. Until then, we'll see you next time.